All right. Hey, man. Hi. Thank you so much, firstly, for joining us and giving us your time.
Hey, hi, Autrri. Good to be here. Thanks for having me here.
Awesome.
It's good to share whatever I've experienced with you.
Yes.
To all the audience over here.
You are another rock star, superstar. One of my center points in this session today. So, guys, just some brief background. I'm going to let Sharan do his introduction, but let me tell you, I'm absolutely in awe of this gentleman here because he has so many followers on social media, and I am an absolute noob when it comes to social media. I just don't get it. I'm generally a pretty introverted kind of a guy, so I find the whole idea of it a little bit difficult, but I know it's super important. I have to coach my students now to maintain a social media profile and how important business schools are looking at it. And I know, Sharan, it has helped you in your applications. Why don't you share a little bit about your background, what led you to look at Colombia? And also, one of the things I definitely want you to do is really address students how they can work on their social media profile, how and why it's important, simple basic tips. I mean, I think you are an absolute champion. I mean, I think you're very expert, but if you can give some basic pointers, I'm going to be making my notes. I know I'm waiting for you to tell me as well, but no, jokes apart,
sure.
do share what worked for you. Yes.
Absolutely. So I'll start with introducing myself. So, so I was born and raised in Mangalore, and did my schooling here, and then I did my engineering at RB College, where I studied mechanical engineering. And during my time there, as with most engineering colleges, I joined an academic club where I was a part of a team which designs and builds Formula One race cars. So I had a blast there, made a lot of close friends. We participated in many international competitions, and we're also the first Indian team to secure a podium finish at an international event. So somewhere midway during engineering, I realized that I did not want to pursue masters in the engineering field. I wanted to explore a career path where I could work with teams and solve business problems. So that's where during my research, I realized that investment banking and consulting were something that I could be interested in. I was still not sure. And then I started applying to these companies and couldn't get into most of them. Because I'm not from a feeder school in India. In India, you need to be at least in the IITs to get into MBB firms and all of that. But I was lucky that RB College was still the top college and one of the top colleges in Karnataka, and one of the big four firms, KPMG, came to our college, and I was one of the 600 people who one among the 600 people who applied, and fortunately I got in, and that was like my foot in the door into the business world. Had a great time there, worked with people who studied at IIMs, and had a great time learning and working with some of the top companies in India. So I worked in management consulting for about 2.5 years, and then again moved to PwC, where I worked in mergers and acquisitions team, again in the consulting division. And then the pandemic struck, and then that's where I had a lot of free time. Consulting, you usually have a very hectic schedule, mainly due to long working hours and constant traveling. Pandemic put a halt to all of that, and I had a lot of free time. So that's when I started creating content, firstly on YouTube, and then I pivoted to Instagram. Personal finance was always a passion of mine. I've always loved, making my money grow. So that's what I thought. Let me share some of that wisdom to my friends and family, and that's when things started growing very well. And then completely unexpected. I did not expect my content creation to be a legitimate alternate source of income for me. But today I've been very fortunate that it has grown to such a huge level. So yeah, and to answer your query about why is social media so important today, I think it's because wherever you apply today, right? Even I hire people for my company today, finance with Sharan. Whenever we hire anybody, the first thing that we do is we Google them, and when you Google them, or you'll go to LinkedIn and you check out their LinkedIn page. Now, if your LinkedIn page is going to be the same as everybody else's, where you don't post anything and you're just talking about your laurels or any company that you work with, you're at the same categorization or level as everybody else. Like, majority of the people don't really do anything on social media. They just talk about what they've done at their company. I think it's very important to talk about what value added in a company in the form of posts, because we might think that what we're doing at a company is very easy and everybody knows about it, but actually that's not the case. It's very important to decipher what you do at a company, no matter how technical it is, and make it into easy, understandable content for everybody to understand. So I think the bare minimum for everybody today is to at least put LinkedIn posts of what you do at a company so that you stand out from the crowd, and not just from a job placement point of view, but also from a college application point of view, because that is something everybody looks at these days.
Excellent, excellent. Please continue on that. Okay, LinkedIn post is one thing. Any other tips? Because I know everyone sitting here, I think you can really keep, what can they do on Instagram? What can they do on Facebook? I mean, one of the things that correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think what really worked for you is, like you mentioned, I think you're genuinely passionate about finance, and you have been able to take that passion and do something. And I know what business schools love is, to see some kind of systemic impact. We've spoken about this, where they can see it's just beyond yourself. And I think you are an epitome of that, right? Where you've taken your interest and now you've actually gone out there and you're helping millions of people, and that's what they want to see, because that shows what your potential is for the future. But I would love you to give some pointers on that. Imagine a student sitting here is passionate about music or sport or whatever. What could they potentially do in the next 6 months, application season this year or next year, whenever they're targeting? I would love to pick your brains on, give us 1 or 2 ideas that you have.
Sure. So like you said, business schools are looking for what you do beyond work. They don't want a person who is just 24/7 into his job. They want to see what you're doing for the community around you. Right. It depends from business school to business school, but most business schools, love what impact you're adding to the community around you, because that will be a reflection of what value you can add to the school as well. Right. If you're just going to be focused on academics and only care about yourself, they know that you might not add value to the community and in the school and to your peers. So that's why it's important for them to see such examples of work that you have done in your past. For me, I created personal finance content, so that helped a lot of people in my community. And the way I did it was through video content. I understand video content might not be everybody's cup of tea, and neither was it mine. Autrri mentioned in the beginning that he's not really good with social media, and neither was I. I just started this 1 year back. And prior to this, even I was somebody who just posts, 4 to 5 pictures in a year. And that is mostly, travel pictures, which even Autrri is a very big travel aficionado. And even I was something like that, I just post pictures from different European countries and used to post it there. It was very difficult for me, to be honest. In the beginning, I still remember going out into the terrace and holding a camera with a selfie camera and posting videos. It was very super awkward. But I think it's true with all things, right? The more effort and more practice you put into it, the better you get at it, right? For me, it was about personal finance, but I'm sure there are a lot of other things that you can do on an extracurricular front. I also worked with the United Nations to work on some not-for-profit organizations. One example would be I worked with an NGO based out of Cameroon to help the internally displaced people of Cameroon due to some civil war strikes. So it was a remote opportunity, but it still gave me some brownie points in my application. I did not do it for the purpose of the application. I did it genuinely because I had the free time and I wanted to do something apart from work, right, to remove the monotony of the lockdown. So I did it for that purpose. And I think these sort of things really help you out, shine in your application.
Absolutely. I mean, if there is anything I would tell the others listening, and it's absolutely this: if you're hearing all the students, you will see that they are talking about what they're genuinely passionate about. You have to be passionate about things, then you have to do something about it, and you have to showcase it. For me, there's like three steps, right? One is having the passion to start with. Then secondly, doing something about it. And thirdly, can I showcase it? And I think social media is a great platform for you to do so. So totally, that's great. Sharan, I want to try a different track now. Just talk about your application to Colombia. How did that go for you? Talk to the guys about potentially what value I added to it. What did you learn from it? Advice for future cohort would be great to hear your views on that.
Yeah. So firstly, I would say, before you even begin your application, right? So I've been working on my MBA for the past 2 to 3 years, even before you give your GMAT. So what I mean by that is you need to start reaching out to people who are doing their MBA way before you go for your MBA in the first place. And so that process, basically reaching out to them on LinkedIn. You might think that they might not reach out to you, right? But if you reach out to 10 people, even one of them might reply back to you. And that's all you need, 1 or 2 people from every college. You talk to them, have a heart-to-heart conversation with them for like 1 hour, and you really get to understand the essence of the college and what it has to offer to you. So that's how I did it. And for Colombia also, I started talking to these candidates. I spoke to about 3 to 4 people, both who just got into the program, because that will give me an idea of how their application journey was. people who are in their second year and also people who completed their second year. So I targeted all these kind of students to get a full, end-to-end view of what the Colombia experience would be like. Now, before I did that, I did not really have the confidence to apply to Colombia itself. Autrri was the one who told me, I think your profile could stand a chance. And that's because he knew that at the time that I reached out to him, it was really early in the application process, and that would give me the maximum chance of getting in. So my GMAT score wasn't the best. It's not the high 790s or 780s, which is what is required in most these Ivy League schools, especially for an Indian male engineer. But Autrri is the one who gave me the confidence that you can still get in, and that made me push myself and approach the entire application process. And another interesting thing about the application process is that there were options, in the essays, and Autrri helped me out, which essay that I should target, which resonates more with my application, right? He helped me pick those areas of my life and put it and distill it in the application. Like, for example, I'll give him a draft, and then he will tell, you didn't talk about this part of your application, right? You didn't talk about this, include that as well. So I think that sort of really helped me out in crafting the best application possible to bring out the best the best features of me. It's not enough that you've done all those things. It's very important to articulate it in the most descriptive and impactful way as possible, right? So you might think that you've done all of these things. I mean, you're the best judge of what you are, but if it doesn't come out in words, it doesn't matter, right? Because they're not going to talk to you, right, until the interview phase. So, and before that, if you're not able to make that impact in the form of your words, it's kind of useless.
Excellent.
So it's very important.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And just to finish the sort of circle, what about the interview? Any pointers, tips on the interview? Because for me, those are the hurdles, right? You get a good GMAT,
right.
do a good job of
right.
it. That's for me 90% of the battle. You then get called for an interview. I always tell this to students. I'm sure I've told you as well when you were selected for the interview. And this goes to all the guys. If you watch the pre-recorded session that you've been sent, you will see I've discussed such things that the hit rate is very high. Generally, a school like Colombia, for every 3 students they interview, they kind of give acceptance to 2 of them. So that has generally been my experience. So interviews generally is not some rocket science process that will happen. It's more of the validation. But do validate that, Sharan. Tell us how your experience was, and any pointers and tips for that.
Sure. So interview process, to be honest, for me it was a really pleasant experience because the interview knew me as well. So we had a great chat. But more than that, I think it was the questions that he asked, right? Autrri, through his experience of working with MBA candidates, he has this entire repository of all possible questions that could be possibly asked during interview. So I went through all of that, and then he also coached me through one-on-one video sessions like this. And I was really comfortable with all the questions that could be asked during the interview, right? And it's also about I would also say that more than the questions that is being asked, ensure that you are very presentable, right? For example, video quality really matters. So I actually purchased a high quality webcam and put it on my laptop so that I look really nice during the interview. Because all these seemingly small things really matter. Ensure that your background is really nice and well set up. I'm a video creator, so I took care of all those things. So I would ensure that I would encourage you guys also to ensure that these sort of things are very well maintained. And other than that, I think it's just to have a good time. Just ensure it's just treat it like a conversation. Treat it like a friend that you've met after a long time. And you'll be comfortable with this if you've already spoken to the students of those colleges beforehand, because then you will get to know about those things about the colleges which you don't get to know on the website. And when you talk about those things, that's when you impress the interviewer that you've done your research and you know everything there is to know about that college. So that would be my 2 cents about interviews.
Excellent, Sharan. Thank you so much for your time. I don't think it gets bigger or better than Colombia, at the heart of Manhattan, New York City, for our finance. I think you want to build your career in the financial services industry.
That's
and
right.
I think it doesn't get better than that. I think you're well on your way anyway with the Instagram thing that you've done. I know that tomorrow those big bulge bracket sell side firms are going to come gunning for you, man. And I think you will ace those interviews as well. Perfect. Sharan, thank you so much for your time again. And do be around. There'll be other students joining us as well. We have another student from Colombia who's mulling over Colombia, and one more school, Akshit, who will be joining us, but plan to connect you
Absolutely.
guys as well. All right.
Yeah, I'll be on call.
Okay, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.